They arrived with wonder in their eyes, tall, radiant beings from the Carrick star system, their skin a soft hue of starlight, their minds shaped by millennia of peace, knowledge, and harmonic existence. Chosen as the top minds of their generation, these alien students had long studied distant planets from afar, but none intrigued them more than the blue sphere humans called Earth. To them, it was a paradox, rich with life, art, philosophy, and technology, yet its energy felt stained. Under the supervision of Professor Zelivor, a revered cosmic historian, the students entered Earth's temporal memory archive, a quantum-constructed simulation allowing real-time observation of any moment in a planet's history. The first scene greeted them with chants and fire, tribes battling with stone axes under blood-red skies. One student blinked in confusion, another recoiled. The archive moved forward in time, showing spears replaced by swords, then muskets, then tanks, and missiles. The air around them pulsed with screams, explosions, and cries that seemed to echo across time. In a single sequence, a young soldier watched his friend die, cried out, and ran into gunfire. The students, raised in a culture where violence had been extinct for over 10,000 cycles, couldn't comprehend this chaos. "Is this evolution?" whispered Lurian, her tendrils trembling as she watched mushroom clouds rise over cities, followed by footage of gas chambers, child soldiers, and drones striking down shadows mistaken for enemies. They witnessed kings conquering in the name of gods, nations splitting over skin colors, and people slaughtering each other over invisible borders. It wasn't just the brutality, it was the pride in it, the songs written about war, the medals, the parades. Some tried to rationalize it, perhaps primitive survival instinct or a planetary psychological imbalance, but no theory could soften the emotional blow. The final scenes were the worst, not because they were the most violent, but because they showed the calm after. Survivors rebuilding on top of ruins, pretending the past had been justified. The archive dimmed. No one spoke. Professor Zelivor, known for his stoic wisdom, looked away as if the images still echoed inside him. "You asked why Earth has not been contacted," he said quietly. "Now you know." The silence lingered, long after the archive shut down, like smoke after a burning, thick, invisible, choking. None of the students moved. Some kept their eyes closed as if refusing to let the darkness of Earth's history sink any deeper into their luminous minds. Others stared blankly into the curved glass wall of the observatory, where stars drifted peacefully, a cruel contrast to what they had just witnessed. Lurian, whose mind was known for its deep empathy, finally broke the silence. "But they also created beauty," she whispered, her voice brittle. "Music, poetry, even love." The others glanced at her, unsure whether to agree or feel betrayed. Professor Zelivor remained motionless, his 4 hands folded behind his back, eyes distant. "Yes," he finally said, "that is what makes them even more dangerous. They are not mindless destroyers. They are creators who destroy. Beings capable of compassion, yet drawn, again and again, to conflict. Their duality is unlike any species we've observed." A student named Calix, known for his sharp logic, stepped forward, his voice almost trembling with restrained emotion. "But why? With such intelligence, such capacity for reflection, why repeat the cycle?" The professor turned to the central interface, activating a new layer of the archive, not images this time, but data, neural imprints, linguistic patterns, socio-cultural timelines. "Because for much of their existence," he explained, "they have mistaken fear for strength, difference for threat, and power for purpose." The data bloomed around them like constellations, maps of wars, spikes of hatred, sudden dips in peace. They divide themselves not only by color or creed, but by lines they drew in dirt. They invent ideologies and then die for them. They crown themselves gods, then burn each other in those gods' names. Lurian looked down. "Have they learned nothing?" Celivor's gaze softened. "They learn, They forget. Then they learn again. It is a painful evolution, slow and uneven. One student, silent until now, suddenly asked, "Are they still dangerous?" The question hung in the air. Zelivor nodded. Yes, but they are also on the edge of awakening or annihilation. With a wave of his hand, he opened one final file. It displayed a timeline branching into probabilities. In one, Earth destroyed itself through climate collapse and political fragmentation. In another, it forged an unprecedented unity, rising as a beacon of balance in the galactic community. But between those two futures was a narrow, volatile line of uncertainty. "This is why we have not contacted them," Zelivor said gravely. "To intervene now would risk triggering either extreme. They must choose their path freely or not at all." The students absorbed this with heavy hearts. Lurian stepped forward, curiosity struggling with caution. "Have they shown signs of change?" Zelivor offered a slight nod. "Some. Isolated. Acts of compassion that defy reason. Individuals who in the face of hatred choose kindness. Voices who speak of unity across oceans. Small flickering lights, but enough to remind us they are not lost yet." He paused, then added, "But those lights are often silenced, crushed beneath the weight of louder, darker forces." The students glanced at each other, grappling with a question none dared to voice. Should we help them? Should we interfere? Sensing their thoughts, Zelivor sighed. "You must understand. Intervention is not rescue. It is influence. And influence, even with good intent, can be corruption." He dimmed the projections, the observatory darkening to a soft twilight. "Your mission was not to save or judge, it was to witness, learn, and remember." A silence fell again, but it was different this time. Not stunned, but thoughtful. The weight of Earth's story now lived within them, not as data, but as memory. As they turned to leave, Lurian lingered behind, gazing at the tiny blue dot, suspended in the vast black void. "They carry the fire of both gods and beasts," she murmured. "And they walk the line between the two." Zelivor joined her, his voice lower now. "Yes, and only they can choose what they become." Outside the ship, Earth spun silently, oblivious to the alien eyes that had watched, grieved, and left, without a trace. Unaware that far across the stars its story had pierced the hearts of beings born in light. Days after returning from the Earth archive, the alien students remained changed. Their studies resumed, but a subtle stillness clung to them, less like silence and more like mourning. In their quarters, dreams were no longer filled with stardust and curiosity, but with echoes of screams, collapsing buildings, and smoke rising over shattered lands. Lurian, once the most spirited among them, spent long hours watching archived human art. A violinist playing amid war ruins, a child smiling beside a tank, a poet whispering verses in prison. These contradictions gnawed at her, for no other world they had studied contained such violent beauty. "Perhaps," she told Calyx one evening, "that's their curse, and their hope." Calyx, still skeptical yet moved, replied, "Or perhaps they're just broken." Meanwhile, Professor Zelivor submitted his report to the Galactic Council, a transmission encoded not in words, but in frequencies of emotion and thought. He did not recommend contact, but he did not close the case either. His final impression was of a species suspended mid-transformation. Dangerous, yes, but also unprecedented. For the first time in Carrick's history, a debate sparked among the elder minds. Could a species evolve through pain rather than peace? Lurian, unable to shake Earth from her soul, made a secret request to the memory loom, a sacred AI permitted only for deep contemplation. She asked to relive a single human lifetime, to feel what they feel. The loom hesitated, then accepted. It simulated the life of an unnamed woman, born during war, raised in poverty, beaten down by systems. Yet she still chose to forgive, to teach, to sing to orphans not her own. When the simulation ended, Lurian fell to her knees, overwhelmed. Tears, a rare and sacred reaction among her kind, streamed from her eyes like threads of light. She now understood what no archive could show. The human spirit did not merely survive pain, it grew because of it. The next day, she addressed her peers. They are not evolved like us, she said, but perhaps we are not evolved enough to understand their path. Her words sparked a wave of thought, one not grounded in fear, but in cautious awe. Earth, with all its violence, had shown them something unsettling. That purity alone does not define life's worth. Perhaps chaos, endured and transformed, birthed a different kind of wisdom. As they watched the blue planet from afar one last time, drifting in silence and stormlight, the students knew they would not forget. They would not return. Not yet. But they would carry Earth within them, not as a warning, but as a question left unanswered, still unfolding, still alive.